Oh, the idea of networking. We love it, some don't. In fact, there's so many myths associated with networking, and I want to talk to each and every one of you about the power of networking. My name is DeAnna Busby-Rast, and I am the owner of a company called Authentica Group, and every single day I get to work with professionals and business owners to help them grow and develop as individuals and grow their business. So, networking. Talked a little bit already about the myths associated with it. We can hear them loud and clear. I don't want to go to Coffee and Connections. Everybody stands around and hands out their business cards. Why would I do networking? There's no ROI associated with it. It's a waste of my time. I'm very uncomfortable in large group settings. There's so many myths associated with networking, but the truth is networking is so critical in both our personal and in our professional lives. And I'm going to walk you through what I call developing a networking strategy. But before I do that, let me share a story. So I worked 30 years in corporate America. If you've been following the channel, you know that by now. Here's the thing. I started my business 2.5 years ago, and I've always lived in Omaha, Nebraska, but I had been very disconnected to the Omaha business community because all of my jobs caused me to be on airplanes and travel all over the United States. So starting my business meant I needed to figure out how I was going to connect to the business here in Omaha. And the first thing I did was built a networking strategy. I sat down in June of 2023 and said, how in the heck am I going to grow this business? Yes, I knew that social media was going to be a factor. Yes, I had a business plan, but I'm going to tell you, in that business plan also came my networking strategy. So when we think about the power of networking, when I got out and I started looking at different chamber offices and different networking groups I could get involved with, that was my chance to really start to get my name out there. Now, when we think about networking, we network for our careers. We network when we are invested in our community. We're networking when we are working with our friends. The deal is networking enters in so many places in our life. We shouldn't be afraid of it. We just have to learn what type of networking works best for me. When I started to network, I learned very quickly that the Coffee and Connections wasn't my deal. But what was my deal was going to networking events where I was learning something, where I could give and I could receive. And see, the thing is that networking, a lot of people think about those negative myths, but if we just think about it in the terms of what's important to you. So what is the purpose of your networking? Mine was, I always loved to learn. I loved the idea of meeting people and creating real connections. I'm going to walk you through the networking strategy that I created. So I have a workbook that's available on my website. But when we think about a strong networking strategy, it's going to come down to what are your goals? What's your target audience? How are you going to stay connected? What's your strategy in staying connected? What's your elevator pitch? And I'm going to talk a little bit about elevator pitches. How we cultivate relationships. How is our return on investment? Is there return on investment? You bet there is. And then the power of evaluating and adjusting. If you ever get to know me really close, you'll know that I'm big on reflection and I'm big on evaluation. Because if you don't do those two things, you have no room for improvement. Let's start first by your goals. Is your goals to build your business? Is your goals to accentuate your brand? Get yourself out there in the marketplace. You want to understand what your goals. You also have to understand your time when it comes to building your goals. You know, you could realistically be at a networking event every hour of every single day, no doubt in my mind, maybe excluding some of the major holidays. But you have to work what's best in your arsenal, what makes sense for you. So for me, I learned that I can actively participate in 2 weekly, daily networking events, and then I will attend 1 or 2 in the evening. But those evening ones are sporadic. I don't do those every single week. And you know what, guys? It is absolutely okay to say no. You have to get comfortable. You can't be at every single event, and that is okay. The second thing is identifying your target market. Now, sometimes what you're going to do is you're going to go to some of these networking events and realize this probably isn't the space for me. Maybe it just is, My business really hits home for those in the professional world, those business owners, those that have been working for a number of years. So it doesn't make sense for me to go to a young professionals networking group because they generally haven't had the experience from the business side of the house. So understanding your target market and your target audience is really important when it comes to that. That also ties into your location. Like, do you want to be driving an hour or two to get to a networking event? Or do you want it something that's a little closer to home? So those are some of the things that you'll capture when you take a look at the networking strategy workbook that I've created. We live in an online world, and thank goodness for the design and the creation of LinkedIn. Now, I've used LinkedIn ever since it hit the runway. I have been using LinkedIn from a business standpoint for a very long time. Now, when I got connected or started with Authentica Group, I will tell you that I reached out and started with Instagram. And then I also launched my own Facebook Authentica Group page. Now, I'm really pushing it out with YouTube because it's really about education and content. So you've got to really think about where you show up when it comes to the online world. Now, online is one way you show up, but the other thing is what groups are you involved with when it comes to online? I am in groups that are about other coaching. So I also follow Forbes coaching. I follow Harvard Business Review. I follow different online spaces so I can continue to educate myself as an individual. Truth is, that's networking. Let's say you get a warm introduction from somebody. The very first thing you should do is go to their LinkedIn. Go to their LinkedIn so you can get to know them a little bit better. Just peruse it. Where did they work? What are their likes? What are they following? Get a little closer and do that before you even reply to the email. The reason I say that is, again, it's all about the other person, getting to know the other person first. That's essential, right? Is understanding where you're at online, how you're showing up online, and where you're connected online. What groups are you part of? Now it comes to elevator pitch, because now imagine, visualize for me that you're in a networking event. How are you going to introduce yourself? They always say, oh my gosh, figure out how to do it in that 30 or 60 seconds. I agree, you have to figure it out in that 30 or 60 seconds. But there's not one elevator pitch, you guys. There never is, and there never should be. Elevator pitches are designed to be nimble. They're designed to be changeable. They're designed to tell a message. They're designed to introduce yourself, but they're also designed to capture an audience. I want you to think about the different places that elevator pitches matter, right? So they matter in networking groups. Absolutely, they matter. But where else do elevator pitches show up? They show up in job interviews. That's when you get that longer time to think about, wait a minute, what do I really want this interviewer to know about me? Elevator pitches show up when you're selling your company. That happens a lot, I will tell you. I know that from working in corporate America, right? Elevator pitches show up when you are entering a sales presentation. You gotta have the introduction downright when you are presenting in front of people that you've never presented before. Elevator pitches show up in so many different places. So I always say, have multiple elevator pitches. Nothing is worse than saying the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. What I mean by that is, if you're attending a weekly networking event, and you go in every week saying the same thing, hi, my name is DeAnna, and I work for ABC Real Estate Company, and if you are looking to buy a house, you can go ahead and call me. It's not memorable. We've got to make it memorable, people. So mix it up. Make sure that you've got 5, 10 different types of elevator pitches to play around with. Again, I'm going to have another episode on elevator pitches, so just bear with me. But the last thing I want to say is one of the myths is I get no return on investment when it comes to networking. And I'm going to tell you, I absolutely 100% disagree. I will give you a really quick example. When I started networking, I decided to there is an actual ROI calculator in my handbook. When I started networking, I did the evaluation. I calculated how much it cost me to be part of that networking group. I calculated the number of miles that I drove every single week for 6 months. I calculated my time, so I took my cost to service and I utilized that as my cost to service. Then I figured out, did I spend any money on meals during that time? How many one-on-ones did I have during that period of time in that 6-month period? All derived around that one networking group. Here's what I'm gonna tell you. I got 2 clients that came from that networking group. One was a referral, and this was just in that 6 months, and the second was a direct client. Those 2 interactions, those 2 clients paid for that networking group 5 times over. So when people say there's no ROI on networking, I would argue that we need to really truly think about how we're calculating the return on investment. When you're networking, it's important, just like with everything else in business, is to evaluate it. Is it working? Is it not working? So I used to go to a networking event every Wednesday. And the first few months, I really enjoyed it, but I was learning that there was no organization to the networking event. I wasn't getting out of it, nor was I giving the way that I thought was going to be beneficial. So I exited that particular networking event. And again, that is okay. So it's all about auditing what's working, what's not working. So the last thing I'm gonna say about networking is throw the myths out the door. They don't matter. It's not true. Networking is important. It's about creating the personal relationships. You know, one thing, if you're like me, is that you do get so much value in helping other people. You get so much value in learning something that you didn't know before you met those people. So I hope you found this episode of interest and interesting to you. If you would like to talk more about networking or how I have helped people overcome the networking fear, then I would ask that you click the link on my channel and let's go ahead and get a call scheduled. Have a great one. I'll see you on the next one.